Sunday, July 11th, 2004, was a challenging day for 16-year-old Brittany Gregory. Her relationship with her 18-year-old boyfriend, John Fitzgerald, had been experiencing difficulties recently. In an attempt to distract herself, Brittany spent the afternoon sleeping and watching TV, but the relief was short-lived. Frustrated and concerned about her relationship, she eventually gave in and decided to reconcile with John. Later that evening, Brittany left to meet him, but tragically, she never returned home. The mystery of Brittany's disappearance raises questions about what might have happened to her and whether she would ever come back. Located on the Jersey Shore in Ocean County, New Jersey, Brick Township is a notable township. It holds the distinction of being one of the largest townships along the Jersey Shore, attracting residents and tourists alike. The residents often find pleasure in spending their weekends at the town's parks and beaches, while tourists frequently rent bicycles to explore the town's picturesque surroundings. Interestingly, Brick Township has been recognized as the second safest city in the United States, trailing only behind Newton, Massachusetts. However, tragically, it was in Brick Township where Brittany's life came to a sorrowful end in 2004. Born on April 1, 1988, in Brick Township, Ocean County, New Jersey, Brittany Mae Gregory had an interesting upbringing. Initially living with her parents, Deborah Gregory and Joe Dunn, Brittany's parents decided to separate when she was just a toddler. Despite the separation, Brittany formed a strong bond with her 4 siblings. She was the youngest among them and cherished her relationships with each of them, including her biological older sister, Barbara Jo Dunn, her half-siblings, Brianna, William, and her brother Brian Gregory from her mother's side. As Brittany grew up, she displayed intelligence and cleverness, becoming a bright and talented 16-year-old. With striking blue eyes and blonde hair, she always wore a smile on her face. Brittany loved her education and was a junior at Brick Memorial High School, where she excelled academically. Her teachers held high expectations for her future, especially considering her dream of studying crime scene evidence and pursuing a career as a forensic scientist to contribute to solving crimes. In her leisure time, Brittany avidly watched forensic crime TV shows, fueling her passion for the subject. In 2004, Brittany was in a committed relationship with her 18-year-old boyfriend, John Fitzgerald. They had met 2 years earlier at school. Known for her easygoing nature and maturity beyond her years, Brittany was loved and cared for by her family, friends, community, and especially John, who cherished her deeply. Despite receiving affection and being somewhat spoiled by her family, Brittany remained humble and down-to-earth. It was on Sunday, July 11, 2004, that Brittany's story took a tragic turn. It had been a difficult day for 16-year-old Brittany. Her relationship with her boyfriend, 18-year-old John Fitzgerald, had been rocky lately. The tension started 2 days before, on July 9th, when Brittany discovered that John had been spending time with another girl. Being together for almost 2 years, Brittany felt troubled by John's distancing behavior. Upset and filled with negative thoughts, Brittany had visited the hospital on July 10th to see Brian's girlfriend, who had just given birth. She returned home around 2 a.m. on Sunday, July 11, 2004, and went straight to bed. Groggy, she woke up around noon. Brittany's 19-year-old half-sister, Brianna, noticed her downcast mood and suggested visiting their older brother, William, who was incarcerated in a state prison, awaiting trial for allegedly robbing and assaulting someone with a tire iron. However, Brittany declined the invitation, preferring to stay home and rest. Her mind was focused on figuring out the problem with John. Feeling increasingly frustrated, Brittany eventually gave in and called John. He informed her that he would be hanging out at Point Pleasant Beach, but refused to pick her up on the way. Disappointed, Brittany ended the call, feeling helpless. Later that evening, Brianna went to Brian's house to babysit, while Brittany stayed at their father, Mr. Dunn's place. Around 6:30 p.m., Brianna called Brittany to check on her. Brittany mentioned that she had been trying to find a ride to John's place. In her desire to meet John and address their problems, Brittany reassured Brianna not to worry about her and to stay with the kids. She promised Brianna that she would be back within a few hours. Following her plan, Brittany left the house on that Sunday night to meet John, but she never came back. The following day, on July 12, 2004, Brittany's father, Mr. Dunn, grew concerned when he couldn't locate her anywhere. He reached out to Brianna, asking if Brittany was with her or if she had any information about her whereabouts. Alarmed by her father's worry, Brianna immediately went to John's house and questioned him about meeting Brittany the previous night. John informed her that Brittany hadn't visited him. On Monday, July 12, 2004, in the afternoon, Brianna went to the local police station in Brick Township and officially reported her sister missing. Taking charge of the case, detectives Mark Byrne and Elliot Morgan assumed responsibility by 4 p.m. Arriving at Mr. Dunn's house, which was the last place Brittany had been seen before her departure, the detectives initiated their investigation. They began by questioning Brittany's family and neighbors, but no one could recall seeing her the previous night. After extensive interrogation, the detectives eliminated the possibility of someone close to Brittany being involved in her disappearance. They proceeded to search Brittany's house, where they discovered her cell phone, makeup, and diary. These findings led the detectives to suspect that Brittany's disappearance might be the result of an abduction. During the investigation, Brianna informed the detectives about the turbulent nature of Brittany and John's relationship. Upon learning about the recent argument between Brittany and John, the detectives summoned John to the police station for questioning. John presented himself as a soft-spoken individual and expressed his love for Brittany. He claimed to be shocked upon hearing the news of her disappearance. John informed the detectives that the last time he had met Brittany was on July 10, 2004. Due to the difficulties they were experiencing in their relationship, Brittany had given John a letter in an attempt to ease tensions. In the letter, she expressed the significance of their relationship, apologized for her behavior, and even suggested the possibility of remaining friends, at least. The detectives learned that the last conversation between John and Brittany occurred during their phone argument on July 11, 2004. Brittany abruptly ended the call out of frustration. Although there was no substantial evidence against John at the time, the detectives were unable to press charges. John was subjected to a polygraph test by the police, which he successfully passed. However, despite the favorable result, he was not completely ruled out as a potential suspect. The police's next course of action was to interview Brittany's friends. She had a close-knit circle of friends who were well acquainted with her and her family's dynamics. These friends informed the detectives about the history of drug-related issues within Brittany's family and the constant presence of strange individuals in their house. This information raised suspicions for the police, prompting them to revisit Brittany's family for further inquiry. Through a thorough examination of Brittany's diary and intense questioning of her family members, a multitude of buried secrets within the family came to light. It was revealed that in 1989, when Brittany was just 8 months old, she was placed under the care of her great-grandmother, Beatrice Wood. Mrs. Wood had taken custody of both Brittany and her sister, Barbara Jo, during a period when their mother was striving to overcome her challenges. Brittany's parents, Deborah Gregory and Mr. Dunn, were never legally married to each other. Deborah struggled with drug addiction, which led to her separation from the father of Brittany and Barbara Jo. As a result, custody of the two girls was given to Mrs. Wood. Deborah made an effort to overcome her addiction by enrolling in a Christian drug rehabilitation program in Florida. However, she abandoned the program after getting involved with another resident. In addition to Brittany and Barbara Jo, Deborah had 3 other children from her previous marriage to a man who tragically died in a car accident. The records of the Ocean County Family Court revealed that the custody of Brittany and Barbara Jo changed hands multiple times during the 90s until they eventually ended up with Mr. Dunn on December 3, 1997. Mr. Dunn had his share of difficulties. He served a 5-month prison sentence in 1991 for burglary and drug possession. In 2000, he was arrested for cocaine possession and placed on probation. Mr. Dunn also had a long history of drug abuse and was associated with dubious individuals who frequently visited their house. The police inquired whether any of these questionable individuals had been present at Mr. Dunn's residence on the day Brittany went missing. Barbara Jo, Brittany's sister, provided the detectives with a name. Barbara Jo identified her ex-boyfriend Tony as a person of interest in Brittany's case. She revealed that Tony had been overly friendly with Brittany, which ultimately led to their breakup. When the police approached Tony and questioned him about his whereabouts on the night of Brittany's disappearance, he provided them with an alibi, stating that he was at home with his new girlfriend at the time. Although Tony was not charged, he was not completely cleared as a suspect. Despite receiving various leads and tips, none of them yielded significant progress in the investigation. The case hit a roadblock, leaving the detectives with no substantial leads. However, they remained committed to locating Brittany's body and uncovering the truth behind her disappearance. Brittany's case had a profound impact on the Jersey Shore community, particularly the working-class neighborhood where she lived. Neighbors rallied together to demonstrate their love and support for Brittany, forming search parties and wearing ribbons adorned with the message, "Find Brittany." By mid-July 2004, as no ransom calls or other signs of Brittany's well-being emerged, she was presumed to be deceased. However, a breakthrough finally occurred in Brittany's case when an anonymous informant provided the detectives with crucial information about a new suspect. Foreman provided the police with crucial information regarding a man named Jack Fuller Jr. Jack, a 38-year-old known drug user with a criminal record, who was not only associated with Brittany's father, Mr. Dunn, but he also had a connection to Brittany herself. According to the informant, Jack had confessed to injuring his back while digging the grave to bury a girl he had killed. Upon learning about Brittany's disappearance through the news, the informant decided to come forward and share this information with the police. It was discovered that Brittany knew Jack through his daughter, Cassandra. Cassandra Fuller had previously dated Brittany's brother, William, but their relationship had soured after William's imprisonment. On one occasion, Brittany and Cassandra found Jack unconscious due to a drug overdose, which deeply affected Brittany. With the informant's confession, the detectives shifted their focus onto Jack and devised a plan to obtain his confession through a sting operation. On Friday, July 16, 2004, the informant arranged a meeting with Jack at a convenience store. Wearing a wire, the informant engaged in conversation while the police closely monitored the situation. It's important to note that New Jersey operates under one-party consent laws, allowing individuals to record conversations they are part of without the other person's consent. Unfortunately, Jack did not provide any specific details regarding Brittany or the location where he had allegedly killed her. However, he did mention his intention to harm another individual named Tommy. According to Jack, Tommy was present on the night when Brittany was seeking a ride to John's place, making him the last person known to have seen her alive. The Tommy referred to by Jack was his childhood friend, Tommy Long, who had a criminal background as well. Interestingly, Jack had plans to visit Tommy's house after he meets with the informant. Upon learning this, the police quickly arrived at Tommy's residence and set up surveillance. Shortly thereafter, the detectives discovered Jack's abandoned car near Tommy's house. Moments later, Jack himself arrived with a gas can in hand. He was promptly arrested on suspicion of Brittany's murder and taken to the police station for questioning. Tommy Long was also brought in for interrogation. Initially, Tommy was resistant and unwilling to disclose information about Jack. However, when the police played the recorded conversation between Jack and the informant, revealing Jack's plot to harm Tommy, he changed his stance. Upon hearing the conversation, Tommy decided to cooperate fully with the police, divulging everything he knew. Tommy recounted that on July 11, 2004, he and Jack had been driving around together. They spontaneously decided to visit Mr. Dunn's house. When they were about to leave, Brittany unexpectedly entered Jack's car and requested a ride to her boyfriend John's house. Shortly thereafter, Jack dropped off Tommy at his own house and proceeded to accompany Brittany as she was being dropped off at her boyfriend's place, as she had requested. According to Tommy's account, he believed that Jack must have killed the girl when he dropped Tommy off and accompanied Brittany to her boyfriend's place. When confronted with this information, Jack denied any knowledge of what they were talking about. He maintained his innocence and requested the presence of an attorney. Meanwhile, as the police were pressuring Jack to confess, another witness came forward. A woman contacted the police and disclosed that Jack had abducted her some time ago. She claimed to know the likely location where Jack may have taken Brittany. However, it's worth noting that the woman was a drug addict and Jack had deceived her with the promise of drugs. Eventually, she managed to escape from Jack's captivity. The woman provided crucial information to the detectives. She mentioned a specific area in the Greenville section of Lakewood, New Jersey, where Jack would frequently go to indulge in drug use. This location was situated less than 2 miles away from Jack's residence. On Tuesday, July 27, 2004, nearly 2 weeks after Brittany's disappearance, the police organized a search team to investigate the area described by the woman. Although this area had already been searched by previous teams, including crews, helicopters, and dogs the week before, nothing significant was found. This tip from the woman was the detectives' last hope of solving Brittany's case. They knew that if her claim turned out to be false, they would be back to square one. Detectives Mark Byrne and Elliot Morgan believed that a fresh perspective was necessary for this search. They called in members from the state police, neighboring police departments, and search dogs to thoroughly examine the scene. Some officers who were on their day off requested permission to join the search and bring their dogs along. During the search, one of the team members discovered an area in the woods with an exposed arm. The team member immediately alerted the others, and a collaborative effort ensued. Hundreds of law enforcement officers were involved in searching multiple locations. The FBI provided airplanes, and Coast Guard helicopters were also deployed. Every available resource was utilized to aid in the search. At approximately 9 a.m., Brittany's unclothed body was found. A necklace with Brittany's name on it was found around her neck, which helped confirm her identity. At approximately 1 p.m. on the same day, Brittany's devastated family received the devastating news of her body's discovery. The weight of uncertainty had plagued them until this moment. They didn't know what to believe or what not to believe, unsure if she was dead or alive. Only with her body could they find some closure. For hours, the grief-stricken family gathered in Mr. Dunn's home, seeking solace from one another while grappling with the horrifying news. Brittany's aunt, Susan Wood, was the sole relative who attended the afternoon news conference on the day of the gruesome discovery. As she heard the details of the scene, she wept softly, unable to speak to reporters afterward due to her deep distress. Before leaving, however, she took a moment to tightly embrace the officers who had found Brittany's body, silently expressing her gratitude. The officers, respecting the sensitivity of the situation, declined to disclose whether Brittany's body was clothed when found or if there were any visible signs of trauma or assault. It was still too early to determine the cause of her death or where she had died. A funeral was arranged, and Brittany was laid to rest in Forest Green Park Cemetery in Morganville, Monmouth County, New Jersey. As the investigation into Brittany's murder continued to solidify Jack's involvement, the detectives discovered that Jack's car, a tan Chevy Cavalier, had been observed by an officer at the crime scene around the time of Brittany's disappearance. When approached by the officer, Jack claimed he was searching for his missing dog. Jack was not subjected to further questioning and was released. However, his car underwent a thorough inspection, revealing traces of blood inside. When the blood sample was tested against Brittany's, it was confirmed as a match. Combined with witness testimonies and Jack's recorded conversations, this evidence was sufficient to warrant Jack's arrest. In 2004, Jack Fuller Jr. from Howell was charged with first-degree murder in the case of Brittany Gregory. He was booked into Ocean County Jail, where he remained held on a $1 million bond. Throughout the process, Jack maintained his innocence and denied any involvement in Brittany's murder. More than a year later, on Tuesday, October 18, 2005, Jack pleaded guilty to murdering Brittany on the night of July 11, 2004. According to Jack's statement, he admitted to punching Brittany at least twice in the face and head when she attempted to stop him from smoking crack while giving her a ride to her boyfriend's house. Following the assault, Brittany began making choking and gurgling sounds, with blood coming from her nose and mouth. Jack proceeded to continue getting high, paying little attention to Brittany until he realized she had stopped breathing. On Friday, January 13, 2006, Jack, now 40 years old, appeared in Judge Vincent J. Grasso's Toms River courtroom for sentencing. He maintained a stoic demeanor throughout the hearing and declined the opportunity to address the court. Jack's attorney, John Goins, did not offer any defense arguments and requested the court to proceed with the sentencing. Judge Grasso sentenced Jack to 30 years in prison without the possibility of parole for the murder of 16-year-old Brittany Gregory. Brittany's family and friends filled 3 rows of seats behind Jack in the courtroom. Deborah Gregory, Brittany's mother, was the only family member who spoke, expressing doubts about Jack's complete truthfulness regarding her daughter's murder. She questioned why Jack took Brittany, why he allowed her to die instead of seeking medical help, why he removed her clothes before burying her, and why he chose not to disclose the location of her body to the police. Deborah shared that losing her daughter had been a heart-wrenching experience, leaving many unanswered questions. She believed that the truth about Brittany's death would be buried with Jack. Deborah even wore a ring on her finger, the same ring Brittany had worn when her body was discovered, bearing shovel marks. Referring to Brittany as her little angel, Deborah stated that her daughter had died for her strong belief against drugs. In her concluding remarks to the court, Deborah expressed that Jack may escape life in prison, but he won't escape his lie, as God will eventually hold him accountable. In addition to the initial sentence, Judge Grasso imposed 5 years of parole for aggravating factors, to be served if Jack lived to the age of 70 upon release. In 2008, Brick Memorial High School, the school Brittany attended, established a forensics program in her memory. John expressed his guilt for not going back to pick up Brittany when she called. They were in a romantic relationship, and Brittany had even proposed marriage to John once she turned 18. She envisioned building a family with him. Mrs. Wood, Brittany's great-grandmother, revealed that Brittany never showed any interest in drugs herself. She preferred staying at home and focusing on her schoolwork. Mrs. Wood mentioned that Brittany had planned to visit her in Las Vegas in August 2004. Before the tragic incident, Brittany had written a letter to Mrs. Wood expressing gratitude for sending $25 for her prom. She also expressed her love and longing to visit soon. Although Brittany's loved ones would never fully heal from their loss, they found some solace in knowing that the man responsible for her death was now facing the consequences. This brought them a small measure of peace,